He called me a good thing, as if I, an illegitimate son born from a back alley tryst, had just won the lottery. But if this marriage was truly such a prize, why was it being handed to me? The answer was simple, chillingly so. When Admiral Lucas eventually discovered the deception, I would be the sacrificial lamb, the first to face his legendary wrath. And I had no desire to be anyone's sacrifice. I had no intention of provoking a man whose name was whispered in fear across the Empire. I refuse, I stated, my voice firm as I turned to walk away from the gilded cage of my father Eurostrade's study. But my escape was cut short by a venomous hiss from behind me. "How dare you?" Matter Eurostrade's voice, stripped of all paternal warmth, dripped with contempt. A low-quality Omega defying me? Do you no longer desire your identity? He played his final, devastating card. He knew it was my deepest, most desperate yearning. My mother, a woman from the Shadow Districts, had no official identity, and thus neither did I. Mateo had ensured it. Without that piece of paper, I was less than human, a phantom living in the cracks of society, barred even from the basic right of pheromone registration. The foot I had lifted to cross the threshold felt impossibly heavy. Slowly, agonizingly, I drew it back. The fight drained out of me, replaced by a cold, hollow resignation. "Fine," I whispered, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. "Ire Eurostrade LL do it." And so it was that I, Sebastian, stepped into the life of my half-brother, Henry, and was married off to the most feared man in the Empire. There was no ceremony, no grand affair. I never even laid eyes on my husband. That first night, in the suffocating darkness of the bridal suite, I clutched a small vial of Henry Eurostrade's extracted pheromones. My hands trembled as I tried to scheme, to figure out how I could possibly maintain this charade. My own pheromones were a ghost, a whisper, a stark contrast to Henry's. My body itself was a betrayal, a congenital glandular defect having left me barren of a heat cycle for all my 20 years. I was a faulty Omega, a pale imitation. But as the clock ticked past midnight, then 1, then 2, the grand doors remained sealed. By 3 in the morning, and bone-deep exhaustion was winning the war against my anxiety. I couldn't fight it any longer and surrendered to the plush mattress, my body sinking into the fine linens. Just as my eyelids fluttered shut, a soft, polite knocking echoed through the room. My eyes snapped open. I shot up in bed, my heart hammering against my ribs, and stared at the door. After a long, silent moment, the gentle voice of an old man filtered through. "Young master, the Admiral is still occupied at the Research Institute. He asks that you do not wait up for him." The voice belonged to Benjamin, the Liu family's head butler. In his 50s, with a smile that seemed permanently etched onto his kind face, he was the first person in this cold, imposing mansion to speak to me with anything resembling warmth. "All right," I called out, my voice raspy with sleep. "Good night, Mr. Benjamin." As his footsteps faded down the hall, a long, shuddering sigh escaped my lips. I collapsed back onto the bed, a wave of relief so potent it was almost dizzying. Lucas wasn't coming home tonight. That was a blessing. The release of tension sent a fresh wave of drowsiness over me, and this time, I welcomed the darkness as it pulled me under. I don't Eurostrade know how long I slept, but I awoke to a strange and unsettling heat coiling in my gut. My body felt like it was simmering from the inside out, and my mouth was as dry as desert sand. I kicked off the heavy quilt, shifting restlessly, but the discomfort clung to me like a second skin. It was a fever, I thought, pressing a hand to my forehead as I struggled to sit up. It was in that moment of disoriented quiet that I heard Eater Euro's a rustling sound from the ensuite shower room, followed by a sharp, suppressed gasp. My blood ran cold. A single, terrifying realization slammed into me. Lucas had come back. He was here. He was in the bathroom. And despite being an Omega, I was born male. I knew exactly what those sounds meant. My instincts screamed at me to play dead, to pretend I was lost in a deep sleep, to not disturb the beast in its lair. I lay rigid in the enormous bed, the ticking of the wall clock a deafening metronome marking my rising panic. The amorous, pained sounds from the bathroom eventually quieted, but the door remained stubbornly shut. A strange curiosity began to war with my fear. Had he Euros passed out in there? The thought was absurd, but the implications were terrifying. If the great Admiral Lucas collapsed on his wedding night, the ensuing scandal would fall squarely on my shoulders. I would be blamed, scrutinized, and my true identity would surely be exposed. I couldn't let that happen. Taking a shaky breath, I slipped out of bed, my bare feet silent on the cold marble floor. I approached the bathroom door, my knuckles rapping against the wood before I could second-guess myself. "Admiral, are you all right in there? Get out." The voice that shot back was a shard of ice, hard and unforgiving. Yet, beneath the command was a ragged, unsteady tremor in his breathing that betrayed his true state. He was in distress. I didn't know the cause, but my next thought was a desperate, logical one. "Admiral, higher Euros trade. Am going to call for a doctor." "Stop!" The word was a roar. Before I could even turn, the door was wrenched open with violent force. A wave of suffocatingly sweet center Euros, white camelliarsa Euros washed over me, and with it came the man himself, Lucas. A scorching heat radiated from his body as he loomed over me, his breath ghosting across the sensitive skin of my neck. My body locked up, paralyzed as if under a spell. We were of a similar height, but at that moment, with my legs trembling uncontrollably, he felt like a giant. "You're the one the song family sent." His voice was a low growl, a dangerous thrum that resonated deep in my chest. It was the sound of a predator cornering its prey, and I was utterly trapped. I took a shallow, shaky breath, and the scent of white camellias flooded my senses, thicker and more potent than before. Something shifted inside me. The feverish heat that had plagued me was transforming, twisting into something else entirely. It was a challenge, a declaration of war. A fire ignited in my veins, a restless energy that made my skin prickle. A sharp, throbbing ache erupted from the gland at the back of my neck, a sensation I had never felt before. It was as if something long dormant was finally, violently waking up. I raised a trembling hand to my nape, my fingers brushing against the pulsing gland. Leaning against the doorframe for support, I managed a small, jerky nod. "Yes, very good," he purred, the sound both seductive and terrifying. And then, a click. Blinding white light exploded in the darkness, and I flinched, throwing an arm over my eyes. When the spots cleared, I finally saw him. Truly saw him. The Admiral Lucas I saw now was a far cry from the cold, severe man from the military portraits. A delicate flush stained his high cheekbones, a stark contrast to his normally pale complexion. His eyes, usually sharp and calculating, were reddened and glistening with unshed moisture. His pristine white shirt was soaked through, clinging to the hard planes of his chest and torso. His iconic silver hair, usually tied back with military precision, was unbound, cascading over his shoulders like a waterfall of liquid moonlight. A few damp strands clung to the elegant column of his neck, tracing a path down to the blush that spread across his collarbones. I couldn't look away. My mind, short-circuited and reeling, could only form a single, coherent thought: my God, he was beautiful. A dry swallow was audible in the charged silence. Lucars's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. He leaned closer, his voice a husky whisper that sent a shiver down my spine. "Do you want to?" The Alpha Eurostrade's invitation was casual, almost conversational, but it left me utterly bewildered. Euros what? My gaze dropped, and that's when I saw it: the shattered remains of a syringe on the tiled floor. A strong inhibitor. The pieces clicked into place, fragments of gossip I'd overheard from the other Omegas at the restaurant suddenly making a horrifying amount of sense. Alphas had susceptible periods. They needed an Omega's comfort. This wasn't just a fever. This was his rut. And the overwhelming scent of white camellias wasn't his cologne, it was his pheromones, raw and unfiltered. He was inviting me. I forced my gaze back up to meet his. His eyes were burning, a tempest of desperate need and iron-willed restraint. He was watching me, waiting for my consent. The air grew thicker with every passing second, the scent of camellias becoming so potent it was almost a physical presence in the room. My own body was screaming in response. I wanted him. I wanted this fierce, beautiful, dangerous man in front of me. After an eternity of hesitation, I took a step forward, my arms, moving of their own accord, wrapped around his neck. "I can help you," I breathed, my voice barely a whisper, "but you can't mark me." The rest of my words were swallowed as his mouth crashed down on mine. It was a kiss of desperation and raw hunger, and we were lost to it. We stumbled back into the bedroom, a tangle of limbs and feverish lips, unwilling to break the contact for even a second. The moment my back hit the cool sheets of the bed, the scent of white camellias exploded, consuming everything. I was trembling uncontrollably, a leaf in a hurricane. Gently, I managed to gasp, "Please, gently." A wicked, breathless laugh escaped him. "An alpha's susceptible period," he murmured against my skin as he flipped me onto my stomach, "doesn't end so quickly." In the heat and haze, I felt the sharp prick of his teeth against my gland. But before his pheromones could be injected, before the mark could be made, something inside me snapped. A primal, uncontrollable force erupted from the core of my being. As if possessed, I twisted around, reversing our positions with a strength I didn't know I had, and pinned him beneath me. In that single, shocking instant, the room was flooded with a new scent: Euros, powerful, earthy, and utterly dominant. Cedar. It rushed out of me in waves, enveloping the sweet scent of white camellias, suffocating it, claiming it. Beneath me, Lucarsa Eurostrade's eyes were wide with a mixture of shock and horror. He was completely immobilized. "War Euros," he choked out. "I'm sorry, husband," I said, my own voice sounding foreign and strange to my ears. I looked down at him, my vision tinged with red, and a genuine apology rose from the depths of my confusion. "I don't know what's happening to me. I can't control it." And then, I lost control again. The cedar pheromone raged, a wild storm tangling with a camellia, determined to dominate, to conquer, to wring out every last drop of his scent. Time blurred. I only know that after a long while, the man beneath me finally surrendered. His lips were bitten raw, his fierce eyes still held a spark of unwilling pride, but his body had yielded completely to mine. The sight of him, so powerful and yet so vulnerable, filled me with a dizzying, possessive adoration. "You," I whispered, leaning down to kiss him again, "are so beautiful." For the next 4 days, maybe 5, maybe longer, time ceased to have meaning. We were like two wild animals, locked in a battle of pheromones, yet utterly dependent on each other for survival. The bathroom, the sofa, the bed, the leather recliner by the window, euros, every surface became our battlefield, saturated with the intoxicating, warring scents of cedar and camellia. Even in our moments of shared exhaustion, the smells clung to us, a testament to the storm that had raged between us. As I finally drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep, one thought repeated itself over and over in my mind like a mantra: I must apologize to Lucas properly when I wake up. But when I opened my eyes again, it was not to the soft luxury of his bedroom. It was to the dim, oppressive confines of a private interrogation room. The air was thick with a pungent, metallic smell of old blood. Cold, heavy chains bound my wrists and ankles to the interrogation chair, and an alpha-specific bite guard was forced into my mouth. 2 meters away, on a sleek leather sofa, sat Lucas. He was dressed in a stark black military uniform, his posture rigid, his legs crossed. The warmth and vulnerability from our shared fever dream were gone, replaced by a glacial gloom that seemed to lower the temperature of the room. His face was a mask of cold fury. "Tell me," he began, his voice devoid of any emotion, "who on earth are you?" The passion was gone. All that remained in his eyes was a sharp, clinical scrutiny. "Why did you impersonate Henry to get close to me?" Each word was a hammer blow, laced with a chilling authority that both repelled and, to my shame, thrilled me. My body still hummed with a memory of his, and this cold dominance was a confusing, intoxicating echo of our encounter. "Answer me," he commanded, his voice snapping me out of my daze. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that revealing my true identity would only make my situation infinitely worse. "I am Henry," I insisted, my voice muffled by the guard. As for that nighter, euros, Lucas's patience snapped. In a swift, fluid motion, he stood and crossed the room, wedging his polished boot between my legs. The gesture was both intimate and threatening. "You will only answer the questions I ask." "I am Henry," I repeated, my voice shaking slightly. He didn't believe me. I could see it in the tightening of his jaw. He leaned in close, a black whip appearing in his hand as if from nowhere. He let the leather tip trail gently, menacingly, across my cheek. "You should know," he murmured, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. "My patience is wearing thin." He was smiling, but it was a terrifying, mirthless expression. The cruelty and bloodlust shimmering in his eyes were terrifyingly real. A primal fear seized me, and I instinctively turned my head away. It was that simple movement that changed everything. As I turned, my eyes caught a dark stain on the high collar of his uniform. Red blood, and its precision, euros, it was right over his gland. I held my breath, my gaze fixed on the back of his neck. The gland was swollen and an angry red, the skin broken by a series of deep, unmistakable tooth marks. Tiny beads of blood still clung to the edges. A soft sigh escaped me. It was true then. I had completely lost my mind those past few days. I had marked in Alpha. What in God's name was wrong with me? Lucas must have felt my stare. He frowned, his eyes following my gaze. When he realized what I was looking at, a flicker of something, euros, embarrassment, fury, a circumflex, euros, crossed his face, and he straightened up abruptly. "You have 3 seconds, he snarled, and the cold, unforgiving muzzle of a gun was pressed against my forehead. 1. Is he angry because I saw his mark? 2. The metallic click of the gun being loaded echoed in the small room. Panic, cold and sharp, lanced through me. No, euros. Just as he was about to say 3, a frantic buzzing came from his communicator. Reporting to the Admiral, the spy has escaped into the wasteland. Your subordinate has failed in his duty. The timely interruption came from his lieutenant. Lugers cursed under his breath, holstered his weapon, and rushed from the room without a backward glance. I was left alone, listening to the rattle of my chains, the words of the report echoing in my head. Run away, euros, the wasteland. Your gland is underdeveloped. However, if stimulated by a 100% compatible pheromone, it's possible you could undergo a secondary differentiation. The doctor's words echoed in my head as I walked dejectedly out of the grimy back alley clinic in the wasteland. My body was changing. I could feel it. These days, I could sometimes catch the faintest whiff of my own pheromones, a scent I never knew I possessed. That's why, after I'd managed to pick the lock of Lugers's interrogation room and flee, my first stop was supposed to be the Empire's top hospital. But my plans had been spectacularly derailed. Lugers had issued a nationwide arrest warrant for me, and that spineless excuse for a farther, Matteo, terrified that I would drag the Song family down with me, had publicly concocted a story about me coercing Henry and had dispatched his own men to hunt me down and silence me for good. With wolves at my back and tigers ahead, my only option was to disappear into the wasteland, the lawless border territory between the two empires. It was a wretched hive of outlaws and fugitives, a place most sane people avoided. After a desperate game of cat and mouse, I finally shook Matteo's thugs, only to run straight into Lugers's army, who were sweeping the area for the escaped spy. And there he was, in the passenger seat of a military vehicle. His silver hair was pulled back tightly, his expression severe and cold. There were dark circles under his eyes, a weariness etched into the lines of his face. He looked thinner. I quickly lowered my head, a strange pang of concern echoing in my chest. Was he working too hard? It was maddening. The contrast between the Lugers in his uniform and the Lugers in his bed was so vast, it felt like I was being bewitched. When I closed my eyes, my mind was flooded with images of him on our wedding night, euros, his flushed skin, his desperate pleas, euros, followed immediately by the memory of his cold fury in the interrogation room, and the flash of embarrassment when I'd seen the mark on his neck. Now, seeing him in the flesh again, that dangerous obsession flared anew. I must have been staring too intently, or perhaps his senses were just that sharp. I chanced another look, and my breath caught in my throat. His eyes met mine. Across the dusty, chaotic street, our gazes locked. His long, narrow eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. For 30 seconds that stretched into an eternity, neither of us looked away. It was only when his lieutenant, sitting beside him, noticed his admiral's distraction and began to turn his head in my direction that the spell was broken. A jolt of panic shot through me. I spun around and darted into the nearest alley. But as I rounded the corner, a sharp, stinging pain erupted in the back of my neck. My legs gave out, my body went limp, and I collapsed to the ground, utterly paralyzed. Finally, a voice sneered from the shadows. "I've caught you." From the dim end of the alley, Henry emerged, walking towards me with a sickening sweater. His face was a mask of triumphant pride and deep-seated contempt. I was stunned. The official story was that Henry, traumatized by my coercion, had been sent abroad to recover. What was he doing here, in the wasteland? "Henry," I slurred, the anesthetic already taking hold. "What are you doing?" The drug was powerful. I couldn't move a muscle. He loomed over me, a sharp dagger glinting in his hand. He grabbed a fistful of my hair, yanking my head back so I was forced to look at him. "Sebastian, you useless piece of trash," he spat, his voice hoarse and crazed. "If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be the laughingstock of the entire empire." He was completely unhinged. Through his fermented, venomous curses, I pieced together the story. After my escape, Lucas had turned his fury on the Song family. Matteo, in a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, had sent the real Henry to the Liu family, but Lucas had immediately and publicly broken the engagement. Henry became a joke. Matteo, stripped of his military power for abusing it to hunt me, had taken his rage out on his precious son, exiling him to some remote backwater country. Fianc a tilder copyright Egon. Father's favor lost to Euros. A man as proud as Henry couldn't handle the fall. He had been stewing in his own failure, and he had decided it was all my fault, and he was here to make me pay. "This is all your fault," he seethed, his eyes bloodshot and wild. "Killing you is the only way I can wash away this hatred." He stood up, planting his boot on the back of my head, grinding my face into the filthy ground. He used the tip of the dagger to push aside the hair covering my nape, exposing my gland. A shudder of pure terror ran through me. The anesthetic held me captive, but I refused to die like this. "Henry, you fool," I choked out. "Lucas is here, in the wasteland. Do you really think you can kill me and get away with it?" He let out a maniacal laugh. "Sebastian, do you really think Lucas cares about you? Look at you. You're just a dog I'm about to put down." Before I could scream, the cold steel of the dagger plunged into my flesh. A scream tore from my throat. "I'm going to ruin your gland," Henry snarled, twisting the blade deeper, "and make you suffer just like your despicable mother did." Excruciating pain exploded from my neck, and hot, wet tears streamed from my eyes. He was right. My mother, unable to bear the agony of an unmarked heat after being claimed by Matteo, had taken a pair of scissors and dug out her own gland. The trauma had driven her insane, and she had thrown herself from a building. Henry was still slashing, a frenzied, wild attack. The searing pain managed to break through the paralysis in my right arm. With a surge of adrenaline, I reached back, my fingers closing around the cold, sharp blade in a desperate attempt to stop him. But I was too late. The dagger had already pierced the core of my gland. The narrow alley was instantly flooded with the overwhelming, panicked scent of my own cedar pheromones. My strength gave out. Henry, his hands slit with my blood, smiled down at me. "People as disgusting as you deserve to die alone." My outstretched hand fell limp, my fingertips brushing the grimy pavement. My consciousness was fading, the edges of my vision turning black. My life, 24 years of struggle and loneliness, was really going to end here. Bang! A single, clean gunshot cracked through the air, echoing off the alley walls. In the spreading pool of my own blood, Henry Eurostrade's eyes were wide with shock, a neat hole in his forehead. He crumpled to the ground, his breath gone. A voice, cool and professional, cut through the ringing in my ears. "The spy has been shot dead." And there, framed against the harsh light at the alley's entrance, was a figure with dazzling silver hair, fluttering in the wind as he strode towards me. Lucas. I awoke to the familiar, comforting scent of white camellias. With a groan, I pushed myself up, my body aching, and looked around. I wasn't in an interrogation room or a prison cell. I was in Lucas's bedroom. My hand flew to my neck instinctively, pressing against the bandage on my gland. It was sore, but I could feel it was still there. "It's still there," a familiar voice said from behind me. but you are forbidden from using your gland for the foreseeable future. I whipped my head around. It was Lucas. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was rubbing his temples wearily, the picture of a man who hadn't slept in days. Was it because of me? Why did you save me? I asked, my voice hoarse. He didn't answer directly. Instead, he walked to the bed and lay down beside me, still fully dressed in his uniform. It's time for your soothing treatment, he stated simply. In an instant, his calming white camellia pheromones began to wash over me, a warm, gentle tide that eased the throbbing pain in my neck. It was so reassuring that I felt the tension drain from my body. After a long while, the Alpha's breathing beside me evened out into the slow rhythm of sleep. I carefully slipped out of the room, my mind whirling with questions. I found Mr. Benjamin in the garden, meticulously pruning rose bushes. Mr. Benjamin, I began. I thought I was a wanted fugitive. Why did the Admiral bring me back here? The old butler didn't look up from his work for a long moment. When he finally did, his gaze was calm and knowing. The young master knows everything about you. The words should have sent me into a panic, but instead, a profound sense of relief settled over me. The lie was over. The young master was raised with a strict military education, Benjamin continued, his voice a soft murmur as he snipped at a stray branch. He became famous at a young age, and the Empire's rigid hierarchy has always placed him on a pedestal, far above everyone else. You, he said, finally looking me in the eye, are the first person who ever dared to provoke him. I scratched the back of my head, a flush of embarrassment creeping up my neck. What I did was a bit more than just provoking. But strangely, the butler added, a faint smile touching his lips, the day you were brought back. Covered in bloody euros, the young master barely lost his temper at all. Not since his parents died serving the country has he shown his emotions so openly. A pang of sympathy for Lucas resonated within me. That was the price of his power, euros, a lifetime of emotional suppression. Perhaps, Benjamin said, his eyes twinkling. You will be his exception. Will I? The butler left me with that lingering question. I looked up at the third-floor window and saw Lucas standing there, watching me. The moment our eyes met, he turned and disappeared from view. I couldn't help but chuckle. So proud. Later, I would learn the truth from Benjamin. After realizing I wasn't Henry, Lucas had issued the wanted order not to punish me, but to find me before the Song family could. He had insisted on personally soothing my damaged gland with his pheromones every day, which was why I had recovered so quickly. A warmth spread through my chest. Perhaps it was because no one had shown me such kindness since my mother died, or perhaps it was something more. I felt an overwhelming urge to repay him. I started cooking his meals, waiting for him to come home each day. I spent hours with him in his study, helping him analyze and improve the security systems of his own interrogation room. He was endlessly fascinated and frustrated by how easily I had picked his locks. I didn't have a good explanation. Maybe it was a skill learned from a childhood spent escaping human traffickers. Or maybe it was just a strange, innate talent. With a talent like that, he said one night, a playful smirk on his lips as he leaned over his desk, if there's ever a prison break, you'll be the first person I arrest. So you'd better never betray me. I'll kill you. He held the improvement plan I'd drafted in one hand and grabbed the collar of my shirt with the other, pulling me closer. The threat was there, but the heat in his eyes told a different story. I won't, I whispered. I lost my balance and tumbled forward, pushing him down onto the massive black desk. His collar fell open, and his silver hair splayed out across the dark wood, a sight that sent a jolt of electricity straight through me. Under his daily care, my gland had been slowly healing, and something between us had been changing, too. It was more than just the primal pull of pheromones now. He was still sharp-tongued and demanding, but he was also closing the distance between us, both literally and figuratively. The 1-meter rule he'd once strictly enforced was now a distant memory. I could feel a fatal attraction growing, a pull that was becoming impossible to ignore. Looking at him now, with his lips curved into a wry smile and the faint scent of camellias teasing my senses, my mouth went dry. My own body was reacting in ways it never had before. An omega simply couldn't mark an alpha. It was impossible. But the urger euros, could it be that he euros? Your gland is nearly recovered, Lucas murmured, his voice a low thrum that vibrated through me. Why are you still so easily affected? He chuckled, sensing my flustered state. His warm breath ghosted past my earlobe, and I shivered. His smile widened. He was teasing me. Looking down at the brilliant, smiling man beneath me, a mischievous impulse took hold. He wanted to tease me. Fine. I leaned down and silenced his chattering mouth with my own. For the next week, Lucas was a phantom. He left before dawn and returned long after dark. Rumors were swirling about military tensions with a neighboring country B. Lucas, shouldering the security of the entire empire, was decisive and relentless in his work. I was lucky if I could exchange a few words with him each morning before he was whisked away by his lieutenant, a man named Jack. Jack was an alpha Lucas had saved on the battlefield years ago, who had worked his way up to become his right-hand man. I had always assumed he was a gentle soul to be able to tolerate Lucas's demanding nature. I was wrong. Jack was capable and shrewd, with a core of ruthlessness hidden behind a placid exterior. I knew this because every time I saw Lucas off, I felt the hostile glare Jack directed at me. It was especially noticeable one morning when I reached out to straighten Lucas's wrinkled collar, accidentally revealing the faint, lingering tooth marks on his gland. Across the car, Jack's expression hardened, his eyes flashing with pure malice. "Admiral," he said, his voice tight, "it's time to go." When Lucas turned to him, Jack's gentle mask was back in place. It made my skin crawl. "Sebastian, I want that improvement plan on my desk before I get back tonight." "That's an order," Lucas called out before ducking into the car. He never missed an opportunity to make me his free laborer, but it wasn't exactly free. As the car disappeared down the long drive, I touched my own lips. The morning kiss he'd stolen had been very, very sweet. That night, I sat in the study, holding my newest design, feeling like a child eagerly awaiting a teacher's praise. I'd had a breakthrough, a new method that would dramatically increase the lock's security. Lucas was going to be blown away. But before he could come home, a tremendous explosion ripped through the night. The entire mansion shook and I was thrown against the wall. Screams and cries erupted from the streets outside. My heart pounding, I stumbled to the window and looked out. 2 streets away, a column of fire roared into the sky, painting the clouds a sickening shade of red. Oh God! That was the direction of the military factory, where Lucas was supposed to be. My hands shook as I tried to call him, but there was no answer. Panic, cold and absolute, seized me. I ignored the butler's frantic protests and bolted out the door, running towards the fire. The streets were chaos. Dust and the acrid smell of gunpowder filled the air. People were fleeing in every direction. From the rubble of the military factory, prisoners in their tattered uniforms were swarming out, a tide of violence and anarchy. They were burning, killing, and looting, piling into hijacked vehicles and tearing through the city. I fought against the tide of terrified citizens, shoving my way towards the factory. It was only a few hundred meters, but it felt like 1,000 miles. "Lucas, please be okay." Then I heard Eater Euro's gunshots from beneath the burning factory building. Before I could process what I was seeing, a flash of silver hair disappeared into the chaotic maw of the underground prison. "Lucas, don't go in there!" My shout was lost in the din. He was gone, swallowed by the roiling black smoke. I was terrified. The first explosion had come from inside. I couldn't bear to imagine what a second one would do. I couldn't lose him. "Get out of my way!" I screamed, shoving people aside as I plunged into the smoke after him. "Lucas, where are you?" I searched frantically through the ruins, my calls echoing in the hellish landscape. Prisoners who hadn't escaped yet roared like caged animals. But I couldn't find him. I couldn't smell the reassuring scent of white camellias anywhere. A dreadful feeling began to creep over me. Maybe he wasn't here at all. I turned to leave, to search elsewhere, when a strange, synchronized click echoed through the entire prison. All at once, every single cell door swung open. The remaining prisoners, granted a sudden, miraculous freedom, let out a collective roar and stampeded for the exit. I was left standing alone, my eyes wide with shock. What was happening? Before I could make sense of it, a rapid succession of gunshots split the air. Bang, bang, bang. The prisoners who had just swarmed the exit fell like dominoes, blood splashing against the steel doors. And there, standing on the other side of a sea of corpses and blood, was Lucas. His face was smeared with soot and blood, his expression as cold and unforgiving as a winter god's. "I told you," he said, his voice a low, venomous growl, "if you ever betrayed me, I would kill you myself." He raised his gun, and the last bullet was aimed directly at me. He thought I did this. He thought I opened the doors. "Lucas, it wasn't me," I shouted across the carnage, my voice cracking with desperation. "Trust me." He gritted his teeth, his face a mask of profound betrayal. "Besides you, who else here could have done this? How can I ever trust you again?" He was incandescent with rage. I wanted to explain, to defend myself. I took a single step forward. "Listen to me, Euros bang." A searing pain exploded in my left shoulder. Blood gushed from the wound. "Take another step," he warned, his voice shaking with a terrible, restrained violence, his eyes blazing red, "and I swear I will kill you. Get out." My heart shattered. I clutched my bleeding shoulder and walked past him, my world crumbling around me. As I drew level with him, I couldn't stop myself from repeating it one last time, my voice a broken whisper. It really wasn't me. Get out. That day, the rain fell in sheets from a bruised purple sky, and my heart ached with a pain far worse than any bullet wound. I was in the basement of the Liu family home. Mr. Benjamin, kind as ever, was changing the dressing on my wound. "Young Mistress Euros, oh, I suppose I should call you Sebastian now. It's time for your medicine." I had apparently collapsed at the front door and he had found me. Defying Lucas's implicit orders, he had hidden me away, tending to my injuries in secret. "Thank you," I murmured, "but aren't you afraid? What if I really am the criminal he thinks I am?" Benjamin paused in his work, then calmly snipped a piece of gauze. "I do not know what happened in that prison," he said, his voice steady. But I do know that a truly bad person would not have crawled back to this house after being shot by the young master. I lowered my head and managed a weak smile. He was right. I had nowhere else to go. This was the only place I wanted to be. "How is he?" I asked. We didn't need to use names. We both knew who he was. "The young master has not been home in a long time," Benjamin said softly. "With such a terrible incident, he has much to deal with." He was right, and his absence gave me the perfect cover to find out what was really going on. After a month of living like a creature of the night, I finally found a lead. In a dimly lit underground bar in the wasteland, I saw him. Jack. He was speaking in low tones with a man whose face was completely obscured by a hood and mask. The man's posture was deferential, respectful. Not our subordinate, not our friend, and certainly not our lover. I knew for a fact that Lucas had assigned Jack to patrol the prison that very day. So who was this person he was meeting in secret? The sick feeling in my stomach intensified. The prison breaker Euros, it had to be connected to Jack. Besides Lucas, he was the only one with a clearance and the knowledge to bypass the system. I needed more evidence. I couldn't go to Lucas with just a suspicion. I had to be sure. That night, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and dread, I rushed back toward the Lou mansion, a plan solidifying in my mind. I would expose the truth, no matter the cost.